Good morning. This is the time and the place for the Planning Hearing Officer hearing of May 20th, 2015. My name is Roger Kiesel, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have 3 related cases on the agenda today, and relevant exhibits are posted behind me. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the application and request. I'll read the reports received by other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. Then the case planner will make a brief overview of the case, giving analysis and making a recommendation. The applicant will then be requested to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time period. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again, clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time period. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by the preceding speakers within a 5-minute time period. The hearing will then be closed and the case taken under submission. A decision. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Appeals. Under the appeals provision of Title 30, Chapter 3062 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone who wishes to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety Section, Permanent Services Center, located on the same floor as this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker's forms, which have been provided by the front door, and submit it to our planning assistant. I would like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the Planning Hearing Officer hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Let's start with the cases today. All the cases are at the same location. Location is 810 through 822 East Colorado Street. There is an administrative exception application, PAE 1424777. The administrative exception is a request to allow the construction of a new 1-story commercial building for retail uses, a change of use and an expansion of an existing restaurant to a banquet hall without providing the number of required parking spaces for all uses on site. There's also administrative use permit, PAUP 1504397. This is a request to allow the on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages at a banquet hall. And then finally, there's a conditional use permit application, PCUP 1418750. And this conditional use permit it requests to allow the change of use of a restaurant to a banquet hall that is proposing to expand its floor and seating area. At this point, I'll turn it. Oh no, let me go over the. Let me go over the department comments. Police. Noted there were 5 calls for service at the address last year. And they had several other suggested conditions that are their standard conditions when a restaurant or banquet hall is proposing to sell alcohol. So fairly standard conditions for that. Fire department. Update assembly permit and industrial waste permit with fire department. Correct outstanding fire life safety inspection violations. Building and safety has standard conditions. Integrated waste has a standard condition. No comments from parks. Water and power just has standard conditions. No comment from economic development. No comment from neighborhood services. Nor maintenance services. Okay. So let me turn it over to the case planner, Milka Toledo, for a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Kiesel. As you stated, this project is Sayat Nova, located 810 through 822 East Colorado Street. The location is Zone C3, which is Commercial Service Zone. And the subject site is 25,054 square feet in size. It's developed with 3 separate buildings and a surface parking lot. The 3 buildings include a 2,935 square foot restaurant/banquet hall that is located at 822 East Colorado. The 1,705 square foot full service restaurant is addressed as 820 East Colorado. That's located at the rear. And there is a 992 square foot vacant commercial building at 810 East Colorado, which is proposed to be demolished. The buildings along the east side are the 820 and 822 East Colorado Street, which will remain. And those 2 buildings will be connected and operate exclusively as a banquet hall. And then a new building is proposed, a new retail commercial building at the center towards the front of the property facing Colorado Street. And that square footage will be 3,236 square feet. I'd like to give you just a very brief history on the site. I'll discuss the property, parking situation, and then I'll segue into the entitlements that are being requested, because that will shed some light on why we are here today. Sayat Nova has been operating as a restaurant/banquet hall at this location at the 822 East Colorado Street building for many years. Back in March 1998, a certificate of use and occupancy was issued to operate a restaurant with the business name of Sayat Nova. Subsequent use and occupancy and zoning use certificates have been issued for the same use at this location. The latest zoning use certificate on file was issued in November of 2000, again for Sayat Nova Restaurant. And the applicant is proposing a change of use from the restaurant/banquet hall to exclusively, and to expand the building, and then to exclusively operate as a banquet hall. And the reason why they were in the past called a restaurant was because, based on how our codes have changed, Banquets are held currently at this facility due to their legal nonconforming right, since they were conducting banquets prior to 2002. And due to the expansion, the use is required to comply with current zoning regulations, including the approval of the new entitlements for the new use. The applicant has stated that the existing business has and will continue to operate as a banquet hall, and they're not proposing to sell any alcoholic beverages. As a matter of fact, according to ABC, a license is not required for the consumption only at a banquet hall, and so therefore there's no pending or active on-sale ABC license at this building. So as we can see, the building has a non-conforming right as a result of the fact that they've been operating as a banquet hall prior to the code changes that took place after 2002. But now, as a result of the expansion, that's where we're here today, thus why they're proposing a CUP, which is for the expansion of the use. Now, going back to their administrative exception request in parking, the existing conditions for the administrative exception, or what they're requesting actually, is a 20% deviation of a numeric standard to allow the construction of the new retail building and the expansion of the use and the change of use of the existing restaurant/banquet hall, again, to exclusively operate as a banquet hall. And the required number of parking spaces on site would not be sufficient for all uses. So, as proposed, 39 parking spaces are being provided, where a total of 41 parking spaces are required pursuant to the zoning code. And how did we come up with that number? Again, they're proposing to demolish, as I stated earlier, the 1,177 square foot retail building that's located on the southwest corner of the site. And that is, again, going away, but they are proposing a new retail, which is 3,236 square feet, and that retail building will require 13 spaces. They are proposing the change of use of the 820 East Colorado Street building from a full-service restaurant to a banquet hall. Existing full-service restaurants, the existing restaurant right now currently operates, or was operated as a full-service restaurant without any parking spaces, and that was the existing legal nonconforming condition. 17 parking spaces was required due to the change of use, and they're proposing a seating area of 663 for the banquet. And the way we calculate banquets is parking is for the seating area only. So in that building at the rear at 1705, a full-service restaurant required 10 per thousand for the entire floor area. As a result of the change of use, the seating area is only 663 at 28.6 per thousand. They required 19 parking spaces for the new, and they would get, I don't like to use the word credit, but I will in this case, of 2 spaces for the previous use. 1705 was the square footage at 10 per thousand, 17 spaces, 17 or 19 minus 17 equals 2. So for the next building at 822 East Colorado, it's 2,935 square feet. It currently operates with 29 parking spaces. 2935 at 10 per thousand equals 29. As a result of the change of use, the seating area is 1939, meaning 1,939 square feet of seating area only. 1939 at 28.6 per thousand equals 55. 55 minus 29 would be the difference, which is 26 parking spaces that they would need to provide. And now for the the addition of the foyer and the addition of the storage at the back of the building, those would not get or would not require to be parked because it's not seating area. Mm-hmm. So essentially, we would need to provide parking for the new retail building, which would be 13 spaces. The change of use for the 822 East Colorado Street Banquet Hall would be 26 spaces, and then an additional 2 spaces for the change of use for the 820 East Colorado building, change of use from a restaurant to a banquet hall. And we come up with 41.
Okay.
That's how the math works. They are providing 39. So they are providing, or in this case, they are requesting the administrative exception for the 20% deviation of the numeric standard. Based on their proposal, they have a two-space shortfall is what it boils down to, and they're proposing essentially like an 8% deviation of a numeric standard. The administrative exception for the 41 parking spaces for the change of use, as indicated in the staff report, staff believes that it was not going to be detrimental to the existing situation or parking situation on site. As a matter of fact, as we stated before, they've been running a banquet hall in the past and they've been deficient. They are proposing, which they have been, valet parking, which would help the situation because, as you know, with valet, there are ways to park vehicles and get more vehicles on the site. We are recommending a condition for times that overlap with the existing or with the new retail. Staff has included a recommendation to allow at least 10 parking spaces to be reserved for the retail while the uses, all of them are on site, are operating to help mitigate the situation. And again, staff believes that a two-space parking shortfall is not going to be a detrimental to or exacerbate the existing parking situation in the neighborhood. There are parking spaces available, if need be, along Colorado Street, although we don't use that as meeting the need for their parking demand. Right. If there are any questions regarding the AE, I'd like to move to the AUP at this time.
That's fine.
The AUP is, or the request is to allow the on-site service and consumption of alcoholic beverages at the banquet hall exclusively during private banquet events. As I stated earlier, they're not proposing to sell any alcohol. The alcohol that would be provided is provided by whoever rents the facility or the caterer, but it's not being sold at the facility. And for that reason, based on ABC, and I mentioned this earlier, there are no active ABC licenses on file or pending licenses, and they're not required to have an ABC license, according to ABC, for the consumption only at a banquet hall.
Let me ask you something. What if I rented the banquet hall and up to a certain point I had an open bar and then said no, and it becomes not, the alcohol does not become free anymore to the patrons? What?
I don't know the parameters. Mm-hmm. That would be something that we should contact ABC and find out, unless the applicant here knows.
I'll ask. Yeah.
So again, that's the request for the AUP, and you did mention the police comments, so I don't need to go over them. But since there is no alcohol license existing, Site Nova is not one of them, is not going to change the existing number either in that census tract. And they did receive in the past, within the last calendar year, calls for service related to noise. And I think one call was related to drunken public. One of the conditions that staff is recommending to mitigate that is that a minimum of 2 security guards and 1 banquet manager shall be present for events exceeding 100 patrons so that they may intervene in disturbances and be a direct contact for a police response. Security personnel as well as the banquet manager shall ensure that visitors of the facility do not loiter outside the building or in the parking lot. Keep in mind that there are residential uses along the rear of the property on the south side, but the banquet hall main entrance is mainly at the front along Colorado Street and where the foyer is, and I believe there's an entrance at the 1705, but it's buffered by the landscaping and the parking spaces. Still several feet away from the residentially zoned boundary. They are providing the required landscaping, which is a minimum of 5%, and the required number of trees abutting a residentially zoned properties to create that buffer. With that, I would like to move on, unless you have any questions, to the next entitlement, which would be the CUP.
That's fine.
And the CUP, as I stated earlier, the applicant is requesting the change of use from a full-service restaurant to a banquet hall. That is, again, proposing to expand its floor area and the seating area. We talked about those areas, the connection of the rear building with the front building by way of the foyer, and creating two essentially separate seating areas, but all in one building. And that's now going to be one building, as you can see in the exhibits. We've talked about their existing non-conforming situation, so I'm not going to reiterate that. There are other uses in the area that, as a matter of fact, there are other banquet halls in the area. If I recall, Palladio's is located to the east, close to Adams Street, so not far from the existing location. And I believe the Marquee is located kind of diagonally across the street, and I believe it's also a banquet hall, if I recall. There's a tavern next door, so there are several uses kind of with somewhat of a similar vibe in the area. But staff does not believe that this banquet hall that's already a banquet hall that has to go through this process is going to change or alter the existing conditions that currently exist in the neighborhood or increase the calls for service. Again, they've been running this banquet hall for many years now, and we've heard from the PD and their comments, so we don't believe it's going to cause a negative impact in the area or to any facilities or even the residentially zoned areas in the located at the rear. With that, I conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, I am available.
Okay. Why don't I just call up the applicants? Garo Nazarian. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Garo Nazarian with Domus Design, 109 East Harvard Street, Suite 306 in Glendale. As the Milka presented this project very nicely, I will try to be very short, not to repeat the same items. But as we mentioned, we have to do 3 applications for this site. The subject site has a 200 linear feet frontage to Colorado Street. And the existing building, only 50 feet of that 200 feet, it's occupied by a building. And the entire 150 and 75% of the length of the property's frontage of the property, it's just a surface parking space with the railing fenced. And the intent of the general plan and the zoning ordinance is to enhance the area and to have a pedestrian friendly and the pedestrian active area. And the existing retail building, which is located in the southwest corner of the property, has not has no the path of the pedestrian path of travel. The patrons of the business, they have to walk through the parking spaces.
Is that building vacant now?
It just recently been vacated.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, this new design, this proposed site, it's improvement because bringing the retail, that new 3,200 square feet of the retail building in the front, it enhance the property, which it will be a retail business with the storefront, and it's pedestrian friendly, and it gives more activity, pedestrian activity to the site. So this design, there is no discussion. It's a big improvement, and it's better design and enhance the site, and it's within the goals and the intent of the zoning ordinance and the general plan. And in the 820, 822, these two separate buildings, which we are proposing to change of use from the restaurant to banquet hall, and having heard the conditions of the police department regarding the noise, even the design of this new foyer, it creates a closed ambience in the, because the banquet hall has the main entrance from the Colorado Street and another entrance from the, between of the two buildings. By enclosing that space, even the people that they are gathering outside of the dining area, it's enclosed and it will control the sound issue. And this granting of the administrative exemption, it will allow us to improve the conditions of the site and to be more pedestrian friendly, and we will improve the streetscape of the area too. The project, and as it has been mentioned, the existing parking lot, it's a just surface parking lot with no adequate landscape area. With this design, at least we are trying to comply with the requirements of the landscaping and to have the buffer.
Are you trying to comply, or are you complying?
No, we do.
Okay.
Actually, I mentioned we try because I would like to have more landscaping space, but the size of the lot, is not allowing me. And from 41 parking space required, we are providing 39%, and we are asking 5% deviation from the numeric
Not
standard.
39% like you just...
Huh?
39 parking spaces.
39 parking spaces for
Results in a
5%.
Eight.
Yeah.
Well, what did you say?
I calculated
8%
eight, but-
Yeah,
deviation?
it's a 5% deviation.
Okay.
And the administrative use permit, it's a C3 zone, and the C3 zone, it's a service and commercial zone that the general plan, it's encourage more the diverse and more commercial uses in this zone that on other C2 or the C1 zone is not permitted. So even the use, it's consistent with the various elements and the objectives of the general plan. So, and the change of use, as mentioned, from the restaurant to banquet hall, the combined two buildings, it will create about 2,500 square feet or a little bit more of the seating. And the purpose of having two separate buildings, usually on a daytime, if there is a private party, it will be a small event, not a huge amount of the people. So on the daytime, which all the users will be operating, the retail, it will be in operation. Daytime parties, it will be held mostly, I'm not telling always, but usually the daytime parties, it will be on the small building. The impact of that, and having that small building and the retail business in operation, we have more than enough parking spaces for the entire site. And the evening times, which it will be bigger parties, which usually it's after 7 o'clock, the retail business is shut down. So the entire parking, it will be available for the banquet hall facility. What is regards to the consumption of the alcoholic beverages, the intent of the operator, business owner, is not to sell any alcoholic beverages. But that the consumption of the alcoholic beverages, it's a very customary and accepted use for in the banquet halls, in the private parties.
Yeah, let me ask you something.
Sure.
I rent the banquet hall.
Okay.
But I tell the operator, listen, I have $1,000 limit for alcohol. And 2 hours after the banquet starts, that $1,000 limit has been reached. What happens after that point?
There is no such a discussion because the party event owner, the renter, it doesn't give that there is no discussion that I have $1,000 budget for the drinks. They bring their own drinks there.
Okay.
We are not providing, the Sayat Nova doesn't provide any, just we serve.
Okay.
And if they come with a certain amount of the alcoholic beverages, when it's finished, it's finished. The Sayat Nova doesn't doesn't keep any alcoholic beverages on site.
So the facility, it just serves it.
Just the service.
If I rent it, it's my responsibility to bring any
your
drinks that I
own-
want
yes,
to drink.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We just serve. We
Okay.
don't sell. And because of that, we are asking just the consumption. The party owner, it brings it their own drinks, they serve it. When it's finished, it's finished. There is no more, opportunity to ask the business Sayat Nova bring more. Is not provided that. We don't want that headache. And again, this business which is operating for a long period of time, always, even without the condition of the police department or any other department, just because of the understanding of the business owners, the security office, security persons always are available there just to protect their own business. And the banquet hall manager always is looking to control even, people that they don't understand their limits, and they control the business very nicely. And of
So
course,
has that occurred in the last year?
yes, always.
Every
Every
event?
the events more than, for event of 20, 25, 30 people, not, of course, but for the bigger events, yes. And even the police department concerns that 5 calls, the one item that the drunk in the public, we have to clarify with them because we believe it is not related to our business. For the next door tavern. So by telling all of this, we don't see even the police department thought it's that this business and all this requires us, change of use and the consumption of the alcoholic beverages, it won't have any negative impact in the area and surrounding area. There are similar uses around, and there is no proof that the similar uses created nuisance for the public or creating problem.
So basically, you're going to continue with Milka's condition on security and the banquet hall manager, what you've done in the past
yes.
year, whatever.
Yes, we did review the conditions proposed, and we don't have any objection right now. till have the final ones. If no additional conditions will be, we don't have any objections. But we have to clarify the only item that I am concerned that the police recommendation that drunk in the public calls and the revocation of the permits after 4 calls. We have to clarify with the police department.
Yeah. I mean, that happened last year. That wasn't a condition. I don't know how important that is to follow up on that.
Okay. But I don't want to have that condition, the...
Well, it's not in there
Not in
as as written now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Have anything to add?
No? Are you familiar with what the fire department cited in terms of updating the assembly permit and industrial waste permit with the fire department, and then correcting outstanding life safety issues?
Yes, I'm familiar with that. We will comply with the integrated waste permits, everything.
Okay.
And the fire department, or that citation that we are talking, that it has been solved, that it's happened during the construction.
You've addressed it already?
Oh, that is already.
And Milka, do we have plans for the new building? Well, it'll have to go to the design review board?
Yes,
Or be...
as a matter of fact, they did submit a design review
report.
application quite
Yes.
a long time
A
ago.
long time ago, and before submittal, we did work with the design
Right.
group of the
Right.
planning department closely. We came to the final understanding, and the plans are already submitted to design.
Well, we
Okay.
need the revised plans, but yeah, it's been on hold because
Okay.
of this.
All right.
This needs
Yeah,
to be
because it's
resolved
one thing
first.
to place a building in the front of the lot and, have it more pedestrian oriented, but if it's just a blank wall,
No, it is, I mentioned, it's all glass.
It's nice?
It's nice.
okay. The staff report mentioned a valet plan. Can you just sort of
I can
go
provide
over
the
that?
valet plan, yes.
real quick?
Can you go?
I
How,
don't
how
have
does it
right
work?
now.
Oh, you,
And usually, the valet, it parks behind of the park, let's say the regular parking spaces. They park the second car. And if they have to move it, it's the valet service that it provides. The patrons, they don't come to pick up their own cars. There is a point in the front of the building, which is the drop-off and the pick up, the cars. The valet service, if he has to move 1 or 2 cars to bring another car out, they will provide it, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So the valet service just operates on the site?
During the events, yes.
On the site during
On the
events?
site, yes.
Okay. How many cars can you park valet on something like
Just very quickly, I think that we can.
that? Just, you can give me an estimate. I don't,
65 cars.
okay.
75.
Okay. All right. I think that's about it. So I'll call up the next speaker,
Okay. thank you.
Arthur Charchian. Thanks.
Hi, for the record, Arthur Charchin, and I'm here in my individual capacity. I'm a direct neighbor of Sayat Nova Restaurant. My building address is 825 East Colorado, and I've been there for the past year. And I wanted to note a couple of things. I'm in favor of the project, especially the potential that having a better landscape and a better facade to the new construction would allow for that space. I think that right now you look at a parking lot, and so this would be an enhancement. I also want to note that in the year that I've been actively involved with the building across the street, I've had no issues with Sayat Nova, no noise issues. In fact, prior to that period of time, I've actually held an event when I was involved with Woodbury University, and we had the president of Woodbury at Sayat Nova, and we had quite a number of people attend that event. And parking was not a problem whatsoever. Inflow and outflow was great, and the incidences that I have seen people in the area hanging out in front of that area, actually from that bar, I think it's called the Complex, which is a little further over. I rarely see anyone hanging out in front of the Science Nova building. So overall, I think this is going to be a good addition and a good clarification of Science Nova's business opportunity and a beautification of the Colorado corridor, which I think is in need of such projects. So I encourage that they get their 3 exemptions that they're looking for. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Any other speakers? Do you want to use your... No? Okay. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions. So at this point, I'm going to close the public hearing on the items and render a decision shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.